Hello, are you a gamer starving for connection? Then you're going to love. I know I sure did. Before we continue with this video,
I just want you to know you're in my world.
from the creators who will most likely, comes a story that rivals Pride and Prejudice.
I do declare Mr. Darcy really do be on that Sigma male grind set.
With the literary prowess of the unending primate idea, we start as all average things do, at your mother's house.
Don't say that.
No, seriously, and she is
Ouch.
based. Following this, we are immediately introduced to your Alabama State certified wife, who was only put into the game to cause me anxiety. Now that God has left the chat, we can safely start the game. We are introduced as, well, as a Redditor, and are definitely not blood-related. Step-sibling proceeds to make it entirely clear that the developer's predecessors thoroughly enjoyed drinking copious amounts of fine vintage alpha radiation while shouting "Roll Tide." Once your morals have been heavily tested, you can move on to the actual game. Yes, your stepsister is part of the game, but I only 100% completed it because... Just a little. All the kids are doing it. Oh, I didn't see you there. So where were we? Oh yes, the plot. Our friend, who's actually Lady Killa 69420 360 No Scope, invites us to a mixer, and as a proud member of the monetized plastic fertility statue gang, we promptly decline. So anyways, we go to the mixer.
Oh, you thought this was a full unbiased review?
Absolutely not. I've been watching anime for over 2 decades now, which makes me an elder in the weeaboo community, and my word is law.
My taste in anime gales is refined to such a degree that I hold the official title of sommelier.
And if you disagree, your first anime was probably My Hero, so you need to sit down and listen when Grandpa speaks.
Now that we've got that out of the way,
I will explain why Karen supremacy is mandatory. The other 3 characters consist of Vanilla Weather Girl, who has the personality and aesthetic of untextured drywall, a big booba space cadet gamer grill who's so lost in the sauce her save file on Final Fantasy VII probably has 2,000 hours logged without her ever figuring out how to get off the train. And finally, Stepsis, whose route is the equivalent of an any percent speedrun where killing what little credit society has left to spare you is compulsory. Karen is obviously top tier because... well, because she's a tsundere. Whoops, forgot about jailbait. I mean, right. Her story's actually alright. Because she calls me senpai. Moving on, we ditch the famous pop idol to pursue the true love of our life. Wait a second, how did this... You turn into a Hallmark Christmas movie. Ah yes, where were we? Jesus Christ! Okay, so we find Karen in the street, and she's supposed to be on a business trip. Like all respectable women, she runs as soon as I call out to her. I love it when they play hard to get. Naturally, we chase her down like a maniac and corner her at the river, where her only chance of escape is role-playing as Jack from Titanic. We then check her feet because... And then... then presto! I hope you were taking notes because that's how it's done. Now that the Stockholm Syndrome has taken full effect, we proceed to start our lives together.
Did my best, but it wasn't good enough for you.
Fun fact, this would only be the 2nd time in my life a girl stabbed me with a serrated knife. We then promptly forget we have a penis and continue on with the story by moving into a new couples-only apartment. Mostly consensual, of course. We are a gentleman after all. Karen then immediately begins to nag us the morning after we start dating. Yep, that checks out. But I'll take being called baka over senpai any day. Like all couples, we go to the mall on a romantic trip to buy bath salts to go on a romantic trip, and are finally introduced to the real best girl, followed by some unprotected, unadulterated hand-holding. The next day, Karen finally starts work at her dream job, and we finally start getting dialogue scenes with the real best girl TM, who still uses Windows Vista.
God, that's so hot.
Then the artist goes absolutely bonkers for no reason and drops this banger on us. So Karen asks us on our first date, and like any socially starved troglodyte, we become anxious and confused. This is due to the fact that our malformed neural pathways had to develop by growing through the cracks in the concrete foundation that is our childhood trauma. One of the destination options is the supermarket we've been consistently shopping at since we moved into our new apartment. I don't know, I just thought that was funny. Moving on. I chose the beach because, as any seasoned weeb veteran knows, the beach is the ultimate form of plot progression. Followed by a quaint pub because hydration after a long day in the sun is important. Anyways, my liver would cry, but I've burned out its tear ducts over the course of several years by sticking to a healthy staple of 1 liter straight Stolichnaya a night. That's right, not only am I a weeaboo, but I am a Slavaboo, and I have the Russian paraphernalia and hardware to prove it. I actually got the Ushanka from a vendor on the Great Wall of China, but don't tell anyone about that. So anyways, we have a nice chat over dinner and laugh about adoption. Oh, are you upset that I skipped showing you the fan service at the beach? Guess you'll have to play the game. This video is in no way sponsored. I just really like the game and want to corrupt you. We then refuse a kiss after saving Karen from oncoming traffic because we thought Karen was going to meme on us? The next day, we promptly proceed to compare ourselves to a wolf. Karen asks us on a second date. Wow, we are really dropping every possible ball here. So we go to the beach again and splash some water in each other's faces like a bunch of preteens at a public pool. And as we're walking home, Karen finally brings up the fact that we have bitch in our heart. And like any man whose masculinity's been challenged, we give a rousing speech. God, we are one wrong step away from anamorphing into a recyclable carton of soy milk. We finally let Karen know we're going in for the kill in the most awkward way humanly possible, and make a move on her as soon as we get in the apartment. She tries to say she hasn't showered yet, but we are not melanistically challenged and explain to her that we prefer our food with seasoning. After the deed is done, we partake in a post-coitus bath, and as is tradition, splash some water in each other's faces like a bunch of preteens at a public pool. The following day, Karen calls us having a panic attack, so we do what any normal person would do and have a panic attack, which actually cures Karen's panic attack. Task failed successfully. She then explains that Becky needs us once again, so we come running. We then extort Miss Becky in regards to making her a webpage. As a show of gratitude, Becky tells us she's verse, but I know a power bottom when I see one. Following this, we learn that Karen is a homophobe, which promptly breaks the game. Thanks, Karen. Real classy. Becky then makes a pass at us after seeing that we are obviously over Karen and her dated ways of thinking. We happily agree and ditch the brooding tsundere to pursue the true love of our life. Just kidding. Becky isn't a romanceable character. Well, time to shoot my shot at the homies. Hey, so what if we kissed at the CERN Large Hadron Collider?
Seriously? The only reason you're going into your 30s single is because you are an actual sleep paralysis demon.
Well, time to go back to the brooding tsundere. But seriously, the voice actor for Becky gave it 2,000%, and that kind of commitment is hard to come by these days. Becky then compliments my ass. Thank you for noticing, Becky. Okay, the Becky skits are over now, but seriously, best girl 1,000 times over. We then shrug off work to mess with Karen, because we finally received our extremely late shipment of tests, even getting ballsy enough to give her a shoulder massage at the workplace. Oh, bringing back the PDA like a fastidious early 90s businessman. If you didn't get that joke, it's alright. Only 1900s kids remember Y2K and the inevitable ice age that somehow boomeranged back into global warming. The next day, Karen proceeds to find out we are in fact a Ken doll. Finally! That actually makes sense. Oh, never mind. Karen found it under her chair. We then do everything in our power to avoid making the webpage to include seducing old women in front of Karen. After that, we go on a business outing to get thrashed and rag on Karen. After putting Karen in her place multiple times, we proceed to stumble home. The next morning, we find out Karen is a communist. This second playthrough is really making me question my prior judgment. Was I just lonely?
Hasn't been in a relationship for over 4 years.
Nah. Anyways, back to drowning out my crippling personal issues. Gremlins and goblins, we have finally arrived at Karen's flower competition arc. She leaves work early to go train with Becky and asks us if we can go buy breakfast since she won't be able to cook. We agree and find a nice burger. Jesus Christ! We then get extorted by one of our faceless coworkers who takes a picture of us with our absolutely not blood-related sister. As we arrive at the office, the coworker sends the photo to Karen, who turns out to be a stage 5 clinger.
This is getting into yandere territory.
Wait, this was my favorite route? I now understand why I've been stabbed with a serrated knife. Look, I'm learning! Becky has to go do Becky stuff, which leaves me and Karen alone in the office. She quickly locks the door and jumps our bones. Someone's been watching Grey's Anatomy. Later that day, Karen asks to be taken on a date because she knows we are actually incapable of doing anything that involves taking initiative.
Assuming direct control.
I decide to take Karen on a romantic date to a classy bar, followed by a psychophantic date to a trashy bar. I'm starting to see patterns in my decision making that explain too much about why my 20s were an actual dumpster fire. Who would have thought making a YouTube video about a form of escapism I loved would turn into a journey of uncomfortable self-realization?
The good news is society says I'm a victim of my childhood trauma, so there's absolutely no reason for me to take personal responsibility and change myself for the better.
Make better decisions.
Make better decisions.
Make better decisions. See? That wasn't so hard. The date ends later that night at a love hotel because what screams romance more than a CSI blacklight rave? The following morning, Karen comes on way too strong, so we shut her down. What a king we are! Wasn't I just bashing the protag because he never took initiative? Okay, so if never taking the initiative is lame, but shutting down advances is cool. Wait a minute. Is being base just a way to cope with— I remember when I used to get blown. Karen then proceeds to have another panic attack because Becky tells her she can work on her contest piece during work. However, the piece Karen is currently working on seems to be uninspired. Becky tells her that it needs to be more personal, since art is a form of expressionism. She then asks us what kind of personality she has, to which we reply tsundere. She immediately has the yandere reaction, which completely discredits our observation skills. Later in the food court, we do, however, make the proper observation that flat is justice. Karen then stays late with Becky to work more on the project, so we head home to prepare a lavish feast, which Karen ruins by showing up with bentos. But wait, it looks like we're actually about to make a Never mind. At this point, she has every right to. On our walk, we do our best Ben Shapiro impression, which somehow works. The next day, we find a magazine in Karen's purse that shows her interest in meeting our parents. Thank God she's not meeting my mother. That woman is a savage.
You did cut into me twice with a scalpel with no topical anesthetic, right?
Yeah, I did.
What'd you call topical anesthetic?
Bitch juice?
Okay, cool. Thanks, Mom. Love you.
We then go to visit our overbearing anime parents. They celebrate our new union like my grandmother would celebrate if she found out I'd finally gotten a girlfriend. Hey, hi, Grandma. How you doing?
I asked you, do you have homosexual tendencies? You have to answer me.
Okay, bye, Grandma. I would just like to take this time to explain that aside from the gameplay, all audio and video clips used are actually either created by me or clips taken from my actual life, to include the music. Now that I've mentally scarred you with my existence, we can proceed with the plot. With Karen's competition only a day away, we begin panicking, which results in Karen actually coming up with an idea. The day has finally come. We wait with bated breath as the flower arrangements are judged. Karen, whose number is 69, doesn't win any of the 3 main prizes. She does, however, win Best Bridal, which is some sort of judge favorite consolation thing. She then publicly embarrasses us in public. I said that line wrong, but I'm putting it in the video. Chronologically, we've only been dating for like a month, so that's sort of a red flag, but hey, I've had enough introspection making this video to last a lifetime. Karen then attributes her success to us in a heartfelt moment after the competition. And that's it. Game's over. Get out of here. But like any good Western released anime, looking at you Marvel, the post-credit scenes show that we got hitched after 3 years of dating. The story ends at an amusement park with us and Karen still bickering like an old married couple as a newly married couple. I would just like to state that this is my first YouTube video. I'm pretty sure monetization went out the window about a minute in, but I've enjoyed the process nonetheless. If you hate it, feel free to tear me apart in the comments. You'll never be able to hurt me more than a serrated knife. If you've made it this far, I would personally like to thank you. I originally planned on making this as a comedy review of a game I love, but as I replayed it and wrote the script, I realized I was putting more and more of myself into the video. My final verdict on this game is that I originally loved it because it let me live a fantasy detached from reality. But after making this video, I can safely say I love the game because on the second look, it taught me something about myself, and I've grown a little as a person. Ha! Imagine growing as a person due to a VN. Next video is Katawa Shoujo, the original VN Sin. Tune in next time for another Doom Corp sponsored fever dream.
The game stepped that war gorilla, and I put the fruit snacks as I exit a villa. Got a trunk full of guns, I'm a certified killer, and I said she the one, then I dip like a villain. Yeah, she thinks she can fix me, well there's a dilemma, cause I flex on her ex like a stick and vanilla. You can find me on the block, you can't find nobody real. I'm the most cool kid, like some red and black pillars. I got these black low top Air Force energy. I've been with some gremlins and some goblins with that energy. I know natural predators, I barely have enemies. I kill them all so quick that fucking kids don't even remember me. Yeah.